Hey guys, welcome back. We're here to talk about all the books that I read in the month of August. I actually don't have a whole ton to talk about. I think we're at five books I read this month. I have 5 books to talk about this month. But overall this year I have read 44 books so far, and I'm 22 books behind schedule in order to read 100 books for the year, but I'm okay with that. I'm still pleased with everything that I have read this year, but let's go ahead and get into the books that I read in August. So we're going to start with a book called Dream Fever. This is the 4th book in the Fever series by Karen Marie Moning. Last month, or I guess it was like the end of last month in July, I ended up like binge reading the first 3 books. I was so addicted to the Fever series. I was so excited to have found a book so compulsively readable. But then came the 4th book, and I almost DNF'd it, but I did go ahead and finish it. And I won't be continuing on with the series. I did not have a good time with the 4th book at all. So the Fever series is a book about fairies, with fairies in the world. It is an urban fantasy, and I'm pretty sure it was marketed as romantasy. And there's a lot of reviewers just gushing about how much they love one of the love interests, and I don't get it at all. It's one of the worst I have seen. That I'm like, there was no redeeming qualities about this, so I'm very, very confused. It is possible that we get into the 5th, 6th, 7th book, or even down the line. I think there's like now, maybe I think there's like 7 books in the series or more. I'm not sure. At this point, I don't care, but it's still possible, maybe along the line, that maybe there were some redeeming qualities about this individual. But at this point, I'm like, there's nothing romantic about any of this. Even if you're into the like darker, grittier, gray area romances, I don't even see that there is anything even remotely in that realm that I think is cool in this scenario. I feel that this is actually more of a horror story than it is a romance at all. That's what I would classify this book as. Fae horror. So basically the series follows a girl whose sister had moved to Dublin, and then they found her murdered. So she wants to go to Dublin to figure out what happened to her sister, get some sort of closure, some sort of answers. Her mom can't even speak. She is so distraught about everything. Apparently her and her sister were incredibly close, and when she gets there, she finds out that her sister had all these secrets, which she was not prepared for. She thought that her sister shared everything with her, and then she's trying to talk to the police. She finds out that she has this ability to see the unseelie, which are very scary dark fairies, and it's terrifying. I mean, she's in a lot of danger, and this one man, Barons, who is a bookstore owner, comes through and saves the day, and he's like constantly saving the day for her and keeping her safe. There are also some high fae that are equally as dangerous, just in a different way, and at least they're pretty. One, namely, keeps popping up, and he basically has the ability to put her in like, it's very, very, very sexual in nature, and just by being in his bubble, he can bring her to her knees with being a Priya. It's Prya, which is basically a sex addict. That's right. And there is a lot of scenes that talk about this a lot. At the end of book 3, she winds up in a real bad pickle. It's really hard not to like rant about this and spoil it, but like the end of book 3, like, I get it. We ended up in a really bad situation, but the way that we solved that problem in book 4 is it's honestly kind of gross. Like, not even gonna lie. So, yeah. And then the rest of it honestly was just kind of boring. There was a lot going on with this society, and one of her friends who's like a child there's something about this main character as well she's got the whole chosen one character vibe going for her, but she walks into the society that has been around for decades and just kind of like takes over and feels really entitled, and it's kind of annoying. It's actually really annoying. So there's also that. The next one I read was The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro. Honestly, it's not really a book for me. I was pretty bored most of the time. I'm going to read the back of what it was supposed to be about. In post-Arthurian Britain, the wars that once raged between the Saxons and the Britons have finally ceased. Axel and Beatrice, an elderly British couple, set off to visit their son, whom they haven't seen in years. And because a strange mist has caused mass amnesia throughout the land, they can scarcely remember anything about him. As they are joined on their journey by Saxon warrior, his orphan charge, and the illustrious knight, Axel and Beatrice slowly begin to remember the dark and troubled past that they all share. By turns savage, suspenseful, and intensely moving, a Giant is luminous meditation on the act of forgetting and the power of memory, an extraordinary tale of love, vengeance, and war. I think that's like a complete overstatement of what I got out of this book, because it uses words like being a luminous meditation and savage, suspenseful, intensely moving. It means that it should elicit some sort of big feelings, and it really doesn't. It's very, very subtle to the point of being bland and boring. It took everything in me to try to follow along because, again, it was just so monotone, I would say. There is this whole bit about them, following their son. They love their son. And that part was pretty moving. If your parents, I get it, like losing your kid. They're not losing him, but he's gone. And then the whole idea of the memory loss thing, I feel like it is very subtle. Every now and again they kind of have little memory glimpses, and then they kind of talk to each other about the philosophy of like, well, maybe we're happier if we don't remember, because I think that they knew that there are some dark things in their past that maybe could come between their relationship, and they have a very touching relationship right now that they don't remember. So I understand the philosophy behind all of that, and that is something that I'm very interested in. I like books that talk about this concept of memories, but this book was not very moving to me because it was so subtle, so subtle that I was falling asleep. That was that one. This is also making it to the Unhaul book pile. I think I will go ahead and see if they'll take it as a trade-in book, but it is a little bit beat up, so they might not, but that's fine. It's worth a shot. I'm almost done with reading Kazuo Ishiguro books just because more often than not I have the exact same feeling. That's just his style of writing, which is just not what I really mesh with that well. I did read Never Let Me Go, which I was like, this was really boring, but then again, I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I do have a copy of that book, and I would want to reread that one. But the other books so far, I've read 3 other books, and I am basically bored with all of them. But I have 2 more books on my shelves that I would like to read. One of them's like The Unconsoled, which at least on the back of the book, it's saying it's like one of his masterpieces, which is interesting because I don't know that I've heard anyone on YouTube even talking about that book. It'd be interesting to read that one because, like I said, it's definitely not one of his popular works. And then we have Clara and the Sun, and that one sounds so interesting. It's like a science fiction, like robot thing, and that one sounds really good. But yeah, that's kind of my experience with Kazuo Ishiguro. I think that it is going to, at least I'm going to be going into those next 2 books a little like with lower expectations that I'm going to enjoy it. So you never know, maybe it will exceed my expectations and I'll have a new favorite. But the next one let's talk about is The Lying Game by Ruth Ware, and I actually had forgotten that I read this book quite a while ago. I was back when I was living in Florida, because I know I read a couple of her books but I remember reading like A Dark Wood, but I almost think that the setup, there's something very very similar to that book and the setup in The Lion Game, because like our main character is almost put in the exact same situation from that book to this book, so it was actually difficult to differentiate the two, because our main character is like leaving to go with her friend or something like that, and into this other location, and then the mystery ensues. The Lion Game is again the setup where our main character and her three best friends, or two best friends, all have a shared past where they used to play a game called the Lion Game. Then I guess there's a tragedy that happens, and then they go their own ways for quite a while. They get like an SOS, like they're all brought back together by like the leader of their little group. So they go out to her house and stay the night and everything. And it turns out that like some of their lies might be coming back to haunt them. And it was good. It was decent. I ended up giving it like 3.5. What did I give it? 3 stars? Oh, I ended up giving it 4 stars. I did really enjoy it. I like the characters. You know what's funny? I've been watching Pretty Little Liars, and this kind of reminds me of Pretty Little Liars. But I actually read this book because I was paired to read it, because it was supposed to have some crossover or something like that with Buffy the Vampire Slayer themes, but I'm not seeing any connection there. You know what I've noticed about Ruth Ware's writing though is that she really does like take her time and build up the relationships between the characters. She builds up the past and the history, and I guess I really do appreciate that, but sometimes it makes the reading process feel really long. I mean, she definitely just takes her time. I think that's both good, but I also don't know that it's really my taste. So, Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. Sorry, oh my god. The next one we have is Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. I'm having a really hard time with her name. This is the first in a trilogy. In a nutshell, this is a monster hunting story with characters who are from Native American descent, which I absolutely love. This was also paired to read if you are a Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, which I completely understand. I definitely got those vibes with the whole monster hunting. Only our main character, she's really hard on herself. She feels like she's kind of like not worthy. She has a past breakup that was really affecting for her. And then she has like, I think it's her uncle, pairs her up with this guy to go seek out this mystery. And the dynamic that those two have together is pretty fun and interesting, kind of subtle in a way, but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed our main character. I feel like it is pretty folksy, because like it pulls on this idea that you have this magic that is from your ancestors. It's based off of your names, and like when she's threatened, she can pull from that power, and it almost gives her like supernatural powers to fight these monsters. And then it's depending on who your family heritage is, your gifts are a little bit different, and it's just so interesting. I really liked that aspect. So I'm eager to carry on with the story, which I have. The next one is Storm of Locusts. So I am excited to carry on with this story. And then the next book is So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. I'm so glad that I did get around to this book. Now, I'll be honest, I actually haven't finished the very ending of this story just yet. I'm like 80% of the way through, but I am really, really enjoying it. I should be finishing it up this weekend. I am really enjoying this story. This follows these two very best friends. They've been friends since like, I don't know, high school, college, something like that. And they used to be like the same, very free-spirited, party animals. But then something happened where our main character almost died. And so she has completely changed. And she's in a loveless marriage. Everything is by the book. She follows the rules. She doesn't drink, anything like that. Like obsessed with true crime. And it keeps her very sheltered in her little bubble. Well, she goes on vacation with her best friend, and her best friend is still very much this just free spirit, will just on a whim try new things, and it lands them at this party where everything goes wrong, and then all hell breaks loose. And I won't spoil that for you, but it's a lot of fun. If you have like a very best friend that you share everything with, that you're super close with, I think that it's a really fun story for best friends. Yes, I highly recommend this book. Another book that I'm finishing up reading is Avalon. This is taking me a little bit longer. I have been kind of wanting like pick up another book, but I'm like, no, I'm going to at least finish So Thirsty before I pick up yet another book. And then I want to finish Avalon, and then we're going to get into my September reads. The highlights for this month were obviously Trail of Lightning and So Thirsty. And then I'm also going to be posting a video soon of the best books of 2025 so far. So if that's also interesting to you, of all the 44 books I have read so far this year, or 45 books I've read so far this year, I have picked some of the very best. So if you'd like to check that out, you can subscribe, click the bell, and be notified when I post new content. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye.